welcome to Council Rock. If you have not been here before, we are so glad to have you. Unfortunate in our current circumstances to not have you physically at our building, but we are so glad to see you even remotely, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we move forward. But certainly welcome to Kindergarten Information Night. Hard to believe it is for the class of 2034. So that is crazy to me thinking about that, but it's also crazy that it's 2021. So 2034, these little guys will graduate, and we are excited to welcome them. Before we get started, I'm going to talk about two major assumptions that I'm going to make tonight as I present to you. So the first is that we will be back in school, all of us, every day, full-time next year. So I say that because I'm very hopeful for that. I'm hopeful that the vaccine and that lots of things that we are doing in the community are going to get us there. So as I speak about kindergarten next year, that's what I'm talking about. Should that need to change, and if you've been around and been involved in any parts of education, you know that we've been constantly being updated, working closely with the county and working closely with our health department, Monroe County Health Department, to follow our guidelines. So should those guidelines change, you would be included in those starting now, but all my hopes and dreams are that I will have all of your children every day next year. The second is, which I'm sure is on lots of people's minds, will we be full day? And I am going to present as though we are going full day. However, it is a big assumption because the district has been really planning for this, as you know, and hoping for 2021. We've undergone capital improvements and enlargements. We have, by September, we will have our building back to us fully. However, I just want to say that it is budget dependent, and that with the pandemic and with, many of the things that have happened, the state is going to really be some of the linchpins for this, and then also the community. So what I'm going to encourage you to do a couple of times throughout here is hopefully we can make sure you're all connected to the district in terms of receiving information and e-news, anything about the budget that's coming up, and hopefully you would be able to weigh in with your opinions about that. I'm sure you have strong opinions, but opinions about that and what that looks like. But again, as I move forward, we're going to be talking about the fact, because we are planning for it. So please do not take anything I've said as like I know something and I'm not sharing it with you. As soon as we know something, you would know something. And in talking with Dr. McGowan today, the timeline really is by April 1st, we should know this. And I know that that's a struggle for people in terms of your childcare and thinking about what this looks like. But if it's before that, we'll let you know. But by April 1st, we're hoping to be able to let you know what our plans are moving forward, whether it will be full day or not. So, oops. So again, welcome. So the mission here at Brighton in the district is to really prepare students for their fullest potential. And it's a lot of words. We at Council Rock have come up with our own mission. It is much more kid-friendly and bright and cheerful. So really, we're looking at developing joyful learners who are contributing members of the community, and we are looking at doing that through developmentally appropriate practice. And we really have focused the last several years on what is developmentally appropriate practice, what does it look like to bring about joyful learners. We've done that through studies as a whole building, but also in looking at habits of mind, which is something we are an International Habits of Mind School of Excellence that was awarded to us. And that really is another mechanism that we use to really look at developing the whole child. So that is a focus, and certainly a focus as we look at kindergarten. So the purpose tonight, and again, this has shifted a little from my previous my previous presentations that I've given for this. So we are going to give kind of an overview of the kindergarten program, a little bit about the registration process. If you've done the registration process before, it is a little bit different. We're hoping that we're streamlining it, not only for COVID precautions and in-person meetings, but also for you for convenience sake. And then typically, if we were able to be at Council Rock, you would be able to walk down and see a kindergarten classroom. We've prepared a little video just to give you a picture of that and to see what one looks like. Again, it's going to look like it does now, and it will be a little bit different looking when we are able to be all back in present together. So that's what tonight has. I know that Monica Alangi is here. Monica, if you want to unmute yourself, you are our lone PTSA co-chair who is here, and she's just going to talk a little bit about the Brighton PTSA here at Council Rock.
Hi, I'm this year. There are two other people with me with a face. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you were freezing up a little bit, but I think you're back on.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So as I was saying, Lindsay and Michelle are both the chairs with me this year, but both of them have second graders that are moving up to Fres. And so I will be here again next year with all of you. I also have a kindergartner coming in, and she's my youngest. So this will be my 7th year at Council Rock, and I am in love with this school. Now you can just like slide through the slides while I'm talking. I know you've got a few of them.
Sure.
So we do a bunch of different events, and our goal is just to bring the whole community together with
We're losing you, Monica. We're losing you.
And library and I'm so sorry. This is the room I'm normally in.
That's okay.
All right. Hopefully this is this any better?
It seems to be now.
Okay.
Yep.
So we do lots of different. Okay. We do. We just finished actually a toy drive where we got a bunch of toys and games that we were able to donate some to Council Rock for the primary project, and then we gave others away. We do the library where people just go in and they put the books back on the shelves. We aren't able to do many of these this year because most of these involve actually going into the school. But as Matt said, we're hoping to be back to normal somewhat next year. We do the school pictures. We provide the staff with snacks and with a lunch towards the end of the year. As I mentioned, the book fair. And as I said, the ice cream social. This is where everybody gets to come in to the school at the end of the year and see this whole school and the kids' classroom and have an ice cream party at the end. So pretty much volunteering, just so you know, is just the day of. You're talking coming in and helping with ice cream for 3 hours. If you choose to chair an event, that's more of putting in like 10 hours of work within a month, putting together a sign-up genius for people to sign up. It's not a ton of work. And then if you choose to co-chair with me, that is the whole year doing a little bit of work every month and getting to see Matt monthly as well.
Right.
And if you have any questions, you can go to CRPS PTSA and you can email me, Lindsay, and Michelle.
And there are their emails, so I will make sure. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you.
I'm so sorry about that.
No, you know what? It happens to the best of us. I have Mrs. Jeffries on hold because earlier today mine was saying unstable internet. So I have her ready to jump in and take over in case we get kicked off. We've learned some things about this. So thank you so much. All right. So really, we're going to talk pretty briefly about what the kindergarten program looks like, but really more about our philosophy at Council Rock, and especially in the kindergarten. So we're really looking at providing the best start, the most positive start for your children. The joyful learning is certainly important, and establishing that love of school, and also the connection with you. We recognize that this is the first for some of you, it might be a repeat, but for some of you, it's the first time. And with this child, it's the first time in the more formal public education. So, our teachers are amazing at providing that safe and nurturing environment for kids to learn, to take risks, to make mistakes, and to really learn what it means to be a student. So we start every day at Council Rock, if you don't know, with the Council Rock Pledge. It is what we do most of our discipline. We don't have a lot of discipline, but how we process any issues that might come up between students or with a student. So really, it's every day we start, I will be respectful. I will be kind and treat others the way I want to be treated. I will be responsible for what I say and what I do. And every day I will do my best. And I often tell the kids that if we all live this Council Rock Pledge, the world is going to be a pretty great place, not only at Council Rock, but at your houses, out in the world. And have said recently, if the adults in the world lived this way, we would all be in a better place. So it really is the foundation for the expectations that we have in the classrooms, but also how we process. We're responsible for what we say and what we do afterwards. And, oftentimes that means repairing, going back and apologizing, and then showing ourselves through or others through our actions how we'll do things differently next time. Again, we don't have a lot of issues, but this is how we do process. All right, I believe I'm sending it over to you, Mrs. Jeffries. So it's all you. You tell me when you're ready to move.
So I will. So this slide really, I think, is the crux of what maybe lots of people are thinking about tonight. And really, we, in any typical year, are ready and waiting with open arms, understanding that kids are arriving with a range of experiences. And I think that's even more so now, right? So your child may have been at home with you, with multiple adults in the home. They could have been at preschool. There's a variety of experiences that our next group of kindergartners are certainly going to be coming with. And our teachers are ready to leverage those and find the silver linings in whatever experiences kids have had, meet them where they're at, and then prepare to support them throughout the year in their individual growth. Up until this point, lots of adult help might have been around, like I said, particularly this year, in a year which maybe some more learning could have happened at home, which is great. And so we're also looking to see kids through to bridge that transition where they're going from maybe receiving a lot of adult help with some of the tasks every day, simple tasks like coats on and off, boots on and off, to then bridging and transitioning them to taking more responsibility for some of those items and tasks on their own throughout the day. Awesome. So we're definitely, as I said, we're seeing that jump to greater independence. Kids are now maybe riding a bus on their own for the first time instead of being driven to school by their families. I can say we have such a wonderful and phenomenally welcoming group of drivers who make that experience really welcoming and make it feel like a very safe environment for the kids that are joining for their first time. So that's something really exciting that kids are often really ready for when they join us. As I mentioned, kids are now keeping track of their own belongings as they move through the school year. And again, that looks more like teachers meeting them where they're at and then helping to build those expectations of where we would like them to be. Things like hanging up their own coats and backpacks. As you'll see in the classroom video at the end, you'll see kind of get an idea in the classroom where there are spaces for that to be done. Kids then grow an understanding of where those rituals and routines happen within their classroom throughout the school day. They're applying self-help skills, they're problem solving, either getting themselves through a difficult task or obstacle or problem solving maybe with a peer. And our teachers are really wonderful at sitting back and letting that learning happen and then really picking the right time of where they're going to see where their support could be beneficial to the situation. But certainly the focus is on letting your child have those learning experiences while being guided from the adult in the classroom. Our children, as I said, they're certainly though they've been in a variety of learning experiences this year, they're with a new group of peers. And also they may see a variety of adults throughout the day. And so they're both doing more for themselves, they're interacting with those peers and other adults, which is different from the situation that they could have been in up until this point, where they're mainly just interacting with those familiar family members and parent figures within the home. So I'm sorry, I'm like navigating a few different windows here. I apologize. So in kindergarten, we're working on following the school and classroom rules. As Matt said, the Council Rock Pledge is something we focus on every day. Each teacher has their own way of how they instruct and guide children toward those rules and expectations within their classroom. And you can see Mr. D there, they're practicing them regularly, even today when I was in a room practicing those throughout the year. They're developing those social skills, they're working on cooperative work and play. They're often in learning centers together, as well as more play-based or developmentally appropriate centers together where it looks more like play, but there's really some important work happening there. Sharing and respecting materials is something definitely that students come in, again, a variety of experiences, but our teachers and students are all kind of working collectively toward those goals of interdependence and sharing among the school community. And then just an idea of cooperation, respect, those lifelong implications and how they're going to really transition those skills beyond Council Rock and out into our broader community. In kindergarten, we really, we talk about how important it is to care for each other and to care for the people around us and the world around us. I know Matt speaks to that daily, and some of that has really rung true in recent weeks and events where we're really talking about following and saying what we do and doing what we say, whether we're in school or out. Kids are sharing their feelings and ideas. And I think one thing about kindergarten, after working with and among kindergarten students and teachers for a while, is that that can often look very different. I'm sure it might look different in your home, considering what environment or what transitions your children have gone through over the last year. And so certainly this is an area where I think more than others, we meet each child where they're at as far as how they're ready to express those emotions and feelings, things that might be really difficult for them to express or to find an appropriate way or a way that adults may see most fitting to express those challenging feelings. We're ready to meet kids exactly where they're at, given what they're presenting, and help them build those coping skills throughout the year should they need them. Children also learn to, go back for me, Matt, thanks. We're also focusing on celebrating strengths in themselves and others, and appreciating through many of our learning units, particularly appreciating similarities and differences between themselves and others. That will come up again and again throughout the school year. As long as this one's interesting. We have a picture of one of our old areas in the building, which was able to be preserved, and it'll be really special this upcoming year, particularly because it will be the first year that this friendship garden, the picture that you see, which is a winterized version, but it's really a very beautiful place and a great place where some outdoor learning takes place, where we can focus on the responsibility and caring about the environment. Kids really get a hands-on experience with that.
And just to add on to that, we've also really added some other great outdoor spaces. And by the time your children are here, they will have 3 playgrounds, which we don't have right now. They will be, finished this summer. We have a beautiful courtyard that also has some great spaces that are designed for outdoor learning. So that connection with nature is something that we really try to foster as well, especially in the kindergarten year. It's back to me now, isn't it, Mrs. Jeffries? I can't pull up my scripts. Is it still you?
It is still me, but we can do it together, Matt.
You go ahead.
So we also certainly have a focus on the curriculum and the Common Core learning standards and the best teaching practices. So our goal, by the time your children are 3rd graders, they are prepared. They have all of those foundational skills honed, and they're ready now to do things like read to learn instead of learn to read, which really at Council Rock is our main focus. Our program is built around concrete exploration. So we have lots of hands-on activities, some of what are pictured here, that really lay the groundwork for working with more abstract concepts that they will encounter later in their schooling. As you'll see in the video as well, all of our materials and equipment within the classroom are designed particularly for this age group. And I can tell you that it's something that you really get that's special to Council Rock in a building that's focused on a K-2 learning environment that you might not see elsewhere. You'll get a firsthand look at that in Mr. D's video at the end. Our rules and routines foster positive social interaction and focus on problem solving and the positive outcomes. And also, we provide lots of time for children to explore the materials that you'll see in the building and experience that true hands-on learning.
So I think the biggest difference that we're looking forward to in the full day program is really being able to expand. I think that my kindergarten teachers, our kindergarten teachers, and we as a building are pretty strong in not wanting to make this first grade. This is still going to be kindergarten. So really exploring and taking the time. But if you've had children go through the half-day program, or if you can just picture it, packing in all the things we're going to talk about, there was a lot of picking and choosing and needing to prioritize, and we're hoping to be able to allow for the time to go deeper. So within language arts, for example, as Mrs. Jeffries talked about, the Common Core Learning Standards, which are now the next generation standards, we've gone through several iterations of that, are in place, and we're doing them to the best of our ability. We're just hoping for the time to be able to do that deeper. So exposed to a variety of literature. But lots of people ask one of the most common questions in other years, not this year. This year is, are we going full day and are we going to all be able to be back together? But one of the other years is, what does my child need to be ready to do? What should I be working on? This is kind of readiness skills that we're looking at, that, again, children come to us with all different levels of skills, and we meet them, where they are and help them develop those skills. But this just kind of gives you a range and a scope of what we're looking at. So definitely letter recognition and those letter sounds, learning this, listening to sounds. So learning the phonemic awareness and how that fits into things. Writing their name is definitely something, and recognizing the letters within their name. And then learning to read or rhyme and hear when words rhyme or when they don't. They also work on writing sentences and writing workshop, reading books, displaying their comprehension through discussions, producing those rhyming sounds and rhyming words, and then working on the recognition of some of those sight words, words that can't be sounded out, words that don't follow a phonemic pattern or are very common in our early reading books, the, and, things like that. So in math, we do have a program, Everyday Math, and again, we're hoping for the time for our kindergartners to really be able to experience the full effects of the program. Our teachers kind of pick and choose what is the most important, but it is definitely about critical thinking, problem solving, explaining your thinking, and developing that critical number sense at this early level. So number recognition and counting. So counting to 100 by ones, counting to 100 by tens, doing some basic addition and subtraction, using some of the tools like a number board or a tens frame, which are common and they'll start to use later. Understanding patterns, number sense, which one's less, which one's more, which one's equal, composing and putting numbers together and taking them apart. And then, of course, the actual physical act of writing the numbers. In science, so science right now, we are using Mystery Science, which is a very hands-on and exploratory. We're looking at continuing to use that. The rest, our first and second graders, use a Smithsonian, which actually ties very nicely. Simply Smithsonian, like the national institution, the museum. They haven't developed kindergarten units yet. We're going to keep our eyes out for that. But right now, our Mystery Science really is about inquiry and asking the questions and doing what good scientists do in the exploration and getting hands-on. So answering questions, and what questions do you want answered? in social studies, really looking at what Mrs. Jeffries said, talking about diversity, talking about what's same about us, what's different, family, and then really looking at the self and getting them to begin to understand their self. So projects are also definitely something that happen at kindergarten. So project readiness is something that our teachers continue to work on and develop. So holding a utensil, whether it's a pencil or a marker or a crayon, cutting with scissors, coloring, putting things together. So lots of integration of the arts, and that will continue to happen. But again, with the onset of full day kindergarten, art will also become a special area that will be taught specifically to them. So again, it won't be lost in the regular classroom, but certainly going to be enhanced by the special areas. So speaking of those special area classes, in the full day, they will have, so we run on a 6-day cycle. It's very confusing because the rest of the world runs on a 5-day cycle, but we at Brighton run on a 6-day cycle. So within that 6 days, you will have 2 days of physical education, so 2 days of gym class, 2 days of music class, 1 day of library, and then 1 day of art. And with the full day program, kindergartners would have access to all of those classes. Physical activity is definitely something, not just in the kindergarten classroom, but I would say across all of our classrooms, K through 2, in developing those developmentally appropriate activities and mindsets, really having kids moving, engaging, and those kids who individually need more movement. How do we, we've seen an incredible growth in that over the last 5 years in terms of the way we've structured our classrooms. Not everyone's sitting in a traditional desk and a seat. We've got, some people at standing desks. We've got some people at sitting on the floor desks. We've got some people with kind of a yoga ball to allow them to have that movement, or the wiggle cushion. And really, what does your child need even on just that given day? And students and teachers have become really flexible in their thinking about being able to move through that. Mrs. Jeffries, tell me when it says it's back to you, because I don't remember. So we also have talked a lot about social and emotional readiness, and what does that look like for our kindergartners? It's as important to us as the academics. And so students are starting to learn to have attention held for a little bit longer period of time, 5 to 10 minutes. Maybe it builds to 15 to 20 by the end of kindergarten. Starting with the task and finishing that task. Listening to a teacher or another adult for information. Again, this may be the first time they have another adult giving them input. Taking turns and sharing, communicating what they need, communicating what they want, and sharing that information. So every day we ask our children to think about how can they do their best, how can they reflect on their learning, how can they ask the questions that allow them to explore, and then risk making those mistakes. And that really comes in our classrooms, but also through the work that we do with our habits of mind. And we'll talk a lot about habits of mind, so don't worry about that if you don't have any knowledge of it. We'll talk a lot about that as you move into it. Nothing you need to know at this exact moment. So the other question we often get is, what can we do now as parents? What could we do? How can we make sure they're ready? What can we do? There is no magic answer. I would say staying positive with your children, providing those opportunities, and really listening and talking and reading with them. It seems really simple, but that reading with them is going to just continue, and hold on to it as long as they'll curl up in your lap and sit with you, because you are modeling incredible literacy skills that can't be gotten any other way. There is something, an I can list to start thinking about, and I can include that when we send more information to you or share it with you as we move forward. But that homeschool connection is really key, and the classroom teachers are amazing at at starting to develop what that looks like. So giving you routines, giving your family routines about where do notes go when they need to come back to the teacher, where does homework go if any homework is sent home, and that connection. Where will you look for any information from the teacher within? Teachers do send newsletters home on regular basis, but we are using more and more. It's a blessing and a curse. The pandemic has really forced us to do most of that electronically, and that's a wonderful thing because it's an efficient way that we can get information. But teachers also, non-pandemic times, send a lot of things home, artifacts for you to see and things that your kids have done. So establishing routines now, that's important. Thinking about, those bedtimes, giving them independence as they can have it. So can they get their toothbrush out? Can they put their toothpaste on? If they can't, that's okay. But how can you build towards that? And how can you have some routines at home, expectations for them that you're clear with and that they follow through with? This is some silly stuff. Setting limits and manners. I have a 4-year-old going to, and so does Mrs. Jeffries. We will be going through this kindergarten journey with you. So we're working on this. So anything we're saying, we're also trying to follow our own advice. But, setting that specific time for bedtime every night, helping them to know what time looks like on the clock, and understanding, it's the afternoon, it's the morning, when will we do those kinds of things, and then encouraging those manners, those pleases, those thank yous, those excuse me's. So this is, again, one of the benefits of the pandemic is that we've all had to step back a little. And I know that I am going to be very wary and thinking about how as we've unenrolled or unprogrammed our children, what does it look like when we re-enter post-COVID world? So, thinking about not over-programming, not having them running, giving them the time to explore, even if it's just out in, the backyard or at a park, to dig and to play and to have that time. We definitely have noticed that kids are kind of programmed over the last several years, and we're hoping to take advantage maybe of where we are and then the reset and being able to re-enter. Certainly nothing against people who are, there are wonderful enrichment programs out there, music programs, dance programs, things like that. But just being really mindful of it and making sure that our kids are engaged and are able to process taking that time. And then I think the biggest one, and this is one I struggle with every day, don't do for them what they can do for themselves, and encouraging that independence. And I know how I have it every day, putting shoes on. My son can put his shoes on, but it goes a whole lot faster if I do it for him. So it's okay to do that, but be thinking about how can you do that so that he or she can maybe take that responsibility and have that accomplishment for themselves. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second because that's how I only know how to go about sharing. So this is a picture, or this is a video that Mr. D, one of our kindergarten teachers, made for us.
Hello parents, my name is Mr. D. I'm one of the kindergarten teachers here at Council Rock. Just wanted to give you a quick tour of what a classroom might look like for your children next year. This year we have some desks spaced apart a little bit here. We have nice Prometheum board that's brand new. And you can see there's books around the classroom. We have toys around the classroom. And as we come over here, I have lots of tubs for children to play with. The scenery in the background here might look a little bit different next year as we move along and get things rolling here. Over here we have an additional area to the classroom. So in between these classrooms, we have an area where children can come and play with some kitchen area. There might be some blocks over here as well, so it's very spacious. And you might even have a couple classrooms working together so kids can play together in this area. And as we venture back into the classroom, we also have a bathroom over in the area over here inside the classroom. these movable areas over here where we have the children hang up their jackets and backpacks as they enter the classroom, and at the end of the day they're able to grab those as well. One of my favorite parts about kindergarten is children to be able to enjoy themselves, so having all these toys, having the kitchen area, having the block area is always fun for them. And let's not forget the many books that we have right back over here. We have some tubs of books where children can take the stories and these books and explore throughout the year. So let's run through what a typical day might look like for your child. I have icons up here of what the children do when they enter. So they might take out their supplies, check their folders for any notes or bus passes from you, put their supplies inside their desk, hang up their materials, and then sit down at the desks here. And after the children sit down at the desk, we start our morning routine, which might include the Council Rock Pledge and the Pledge of Allegiance, as well as reading a story or a lesson of the day. And after we do the story and lesson of the day, we would explain what jobs we have in the classroom. That might be hung up over here so that the children know exactly what they're going to do. And built into the jobs and doing the have-to-dos, we have snack time as well as some choice time, which involves some free choice with blocks or kitchen area, all built in throughout the day. And then at the very end of the day, we have more icons up here that will explain what it looks like at the end of the day so the children know exactly what to do. So we would come grab their backpacks, check their mail at the end of the day, put everything inside their backpack, and then get ready with jackets if the weather is cold. So that's what a typical day might look like in the classroom for your child in kindergarten.
So again, just a little glimpse into what a classroom could look like. I will say that before the pandemic, I think all of our kindergarten classrooms utilize tables and kind of shared materials. Of course, that all had to change. Our kindergarten teachers have had to be incredibly crafty in how they've maintained some of the play items and not sharing, so they have 2 sets of everything that can be cleaned. Again, we're hoping that can be quite a different scene as we move into next year. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. So just to finish up tonight, so this is the timeline and the registration timeline. And again, it's going to be quite different than if you've done this before. So before you came here tonight, you should have received, completed a school census form. If you didn't, don't worry. I'm going to give you, if you didn't get contacted by Doris Young, Doris is my secretary at Council Rock, and she is our building registrar. So she's someone you may have future contact with, or maybe you already have. But in February, if you didn't get that, I'll share with you what you need to do. If you did get contacted by her, that means that you have completed the census form. In February, our school and health packets are going to be emailed to everyone. And then we'll ask you to online complete those registration forms and submit them. And those dates will all be included when you get the email. I believe mid-March is when we're looking to be able to have those back. One of the things our team at Council Rock is busy thinking about and planning already is, what does that screening look like for your kindergartners? Very typically, we've had them come into school, get to see the school, work with several of our professionals, so our speech folks, our academic support people, to be able to see just what skills are they bringing to the table. And that also offers us the opportunity to talk with you as parents, to listen to what you know. You've been their teacher for the last 4 to 5 years, whether they've been in a formal program or not. You are their first teacher. You will be always their first teacher. So what information do you have? How do they do their best learning? That helps us figure out where placement goes. Placement will be assigned early August, the classroom teacher. The teachers send individualized information about their classroom, about how their things run. Supply lists come in that. And then again, this has been a challenge with construction that we've had. And with COVID, we haven't really been able to do orientation or meet the teacher. We are very hopeful to be able to have everyone back to the building, to be able to walk their children inside, see what things look like, and meet teacher, drop off supplies. So stay tuned for that. That would be end of August or possibly beginning of September, depending on what the. And then curriculum night is our time in September where you would be able to come in and meet the teacher as parents and hear their talk about how their classroom runs. And for kindergarten, that's early in September so that you have all that information. How do they communicate? How do they send newsletters? All of the nuts and bolts of their classroom. So next steps. If you did not receive notification from Council Rock before tonight, but did find out about this, we're awfully glad that you're here. You can either call Doris Young at 242-5170 or email her and let her know, I never found out about this, because then she would be able to register you into the system that would make sure that you get any future contact. In working with the district today, I actually had conversations with Dr. McGowan about how we can also enroll you if you have no other children in the district. How do we make sure, and we're looking at ways to make sure that you start to get looped in on district communication. So things about the budget, things about goings on in the district, so that you can really start to become a part of the culture and community before your children enter in September, because you're going to be making decisions this spring that certainly affect things moving forward. Mrs. Jeffries, I see a few questions, so I'm not sure if you've been able to answer them or if there's anything I should address as a whole in the chat.
We have, I guess it would just be helpful, Matt, if you could direct folks to any of the current YouTubes or videos that we have out. I know that there will be more to come as far as a broad overview of all of the updates. Some families were wondering about where lunch would take place, and I know that we want to showcase that cafeteria, but anywhere that they can get after that video later.
Sure. So our website is a great place to look. Our website will also contain my newsletter that comes out weekly. So I send a weekly newsletter out, and videos are available on there. I didn't even mention lunch, sorry, because lunch is not in my vocabulary with kindergarten. But students obviously would be eating lunch. We're working on what's the most ideal way, and working with the kindergarten team to plan what that looks like. Should kindergartners all eat together? With the expansion, we have one large cafeteria. Of course, right now it's being utilized with lots of social distancing, and it's working out. But we recognize that kids will, that will be their first time going through, a formal line and going through a cafeteria. So teachers will be supporting that. So we do have, and they will eat in the cafeteria, again, assuming everything is back to kind of normal.
Something that might be helpful. Sorry, I just had a few things come in all at the same time. Just to making sure, as we're hopeful for full day, but recognizing that families may need to register and be thinking about a broader scheme of things for the fall. Can you just go over the timeline one more time about as far as registration needing to be done prior to knowing whether or not kindergarten is full day for sure?
Yeah, so I'm going to actually go back to the timeline. So here's what I'll also say. If you have any doubt, register and put your paperwork in for mid-March. So the timeline really is that was given to me today is April 1st, knowing for sure whether we would be going full day or including full day in the budget vote that goes out to our community. If after that you need to make a change, that's fine. I would rather that you're registered here and have a spot. And I mean, not that you can lose a spot, but that we are planning for you. And then you can always pull that and, just let us know. So again, mid-March is when that paperwork is going to be important. And the great thing about that is by submitting that, even if you have to or decide that you need to go someplace else for a different program, but you plan to come back to us in first grade, second grade, having that information in with our registrar, put you in our system for future communication, and just make sure that you're kept in the loop, whether you stay with the choices you've made of coming to Council Rock or beyond, or not. So,
Matt, could you speak a little bit to placement? How many K students are anticipated,
Yep.
rough number of classrooms, and how we go about dividing students?
Yeah, so the current projection is about 250 kindergarten students for this class, and we are looking at approximately 13 sections, so 13 different classes, and that's quite an increase. We, in my time, had 6 classroom teachers with 12 sections at one time, so we would be definitely looking to either we're going to be hiring new teachers, or some of our teachers at first and second grade who are interested in teaching kindergarten might be moving down. So there could be some different names that you know. Placement happens after the screening, so that we can take a look at where students are, but also parent information, trying to take in, student learning and what they respond to. Do they respond to a lot of structure? Do they respond to less structure? And really trying to match students up with the style that fits them best. Also, we do take, if you've got people students who they have done really well with in the past that you think might be a good match for them as they start their journey, we take all of that into account and try to honor those while honoring teacher fit and placement for that as well. So we work through all of that as a team, Mrs. Jeffries, myself, and all of the people who do the screenings in the spring. And again, we're going to be looking and talking about what that looks like and how best to get that information from you and your children, depending on how things either progress or don't progress with COVID and with the pandemic. So.
Next up is just a brief overview on transportation and if parents need to take any next steps or what that looks like.
I believe transportation information is in the registration, but if it's not, then it must come later. And really, that's just, again, talking about where transportation will need to be from. So is it from your house? Is it from a daycare that your children, or where will they go at the end of the day? And that will come for sure, whether it's in the registration packet, I'm not sure. But we also do on that day where we do orientation and meet the teacher, have buses for children to ride with you so that you can ride on them to gain some comfort if they've never ridden on a bus, and be able to take a ride and ease children's fears or anxiety if they have that about getting on a bus. And then we've just got an incredible staff, like Mrs. Jeffrey said, the bus drivers, from the bus drivers to all of our teachers and staff who welcome children, get them where they need to go. I understand it. I remember my daughter going to kindergarten. It's a little bit terrifying to turn them over to us, but I promise that we don't take that responsibility lightly. We are dedicated to making sure that they have the best experience as they start this journey with us that will last for the next 13 years.
I'm speaking to someone's question right now who's just wondering about potential before and after school programming for children who have parents who work. And I just was noting that typically the YMCA does provide a great rep program for our students. This year, you may have heard or read that they did discontinue it, unfortunately, due to low enrollment. But we're really hopeful, and we have a great space for them to hopefully continue that programming again in the future.
And our, again, Doris is a great resource, Doris Young at Council Rock. We have a handbook of local daycares and providers, and if they are located within Brighton, transportation is provided back and forth to those and can be provided. So.
Okay, I don't have any new messages yet. Let me see. Hold on, I'm just in. It says, is it due to COVID that enrollment for fall 2021 is almost double than normal?
So it is, we have typically had about 200 in a regular year. This year, for sure, our kindergarten enrollment suffered because of a half-day program, and as many of you know, going to a hybrid program that we were forced to go to because of COVID. So there were a lot of people who rightfully were frustrated with that. It was what we needed to do and what we could do with what we had in terms of space. So that number went way down. We are anticipating about 50 additional students from a typical year, so not this year, but a typical year, because we will be having the full day programming. And that is an anticipation. Lou Alimo, who's our assistant superintendent for business, has all the numbers. He's our numbers guy, and he has done the projections and the analysis of it to get us to that point in terms of prediction. So I'm going to wrap it up. If there are questions that come up, Mrs. Jeffries and I will gladly, kind of take a look at that chat and send them out maybe as a frequently asked questions. But I also included our emails here. If you have any questions along the way, give a call, shoot us an email. We are here to support you, to support your children, and to support this transition that we are really excited to make. We're ready to forge this partnership and to be partners with you. So many thanks for being here, for sharing your time. It's nice that you were able to, we wish we could do it in the building, but it's nice to be able to do it in the comfort of your home as well. And we hope that tonight offered some good information, and we will see you very soon. So thank you. Have a great night. Good luck and stay well, everyone.